1.
Welcome inside the CEC TV studios for another edition of Trailblazer Weekly. As always, I'm your host, Carrick Sagmiller. Today we'll take a look back at last week's men's and women's basketball results, as well as women's swimming results. We'll also sit down with men's basketball assistant coach Jeremiah Barnes in our weekly feature interview. And as always, we'll close the show with a look ahead at this week's schedule. It's all coming up next right here on CEC TV and the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page. Trailblazer Weekly starts now. Again, welcome inside this week's edition of Trailblazer Weekly. It was a full weekend of basketball while the women's swimming team competed in Colorado. We'll start the show today on the basketball court as the women's basketball team hosted Academy of Art on Saturday in the 2017-18 Pacific West Conference opener inside the Burns Arena. It was a back-and-forth contest tied at the half at 41-41, and that's where we pick things up with the highlights. We'll roll the tape as, again, it was tied at the half. But the Academy of Art built an 8-point lead midway through the third quarter, and that is when Dixie State woke up. Kesley Stevenson on the right wing doing her part, knocks in a 3, and it's a 5-point game a little bit later in the quarter. It'll be Ashley Burge give and go with freshman guard Mariah Martin. She gets the layup, just a 3-point game. Dixie State would take the lead with some free throws and add to it with a beautiful wraparound pass from Martin to Ashley Burge. Burge is pumped up. The entire team is pumped up. They're loving it. High fives all around. Dixie State by 3 with 1:30 to go in the third. The Trailblazers would continue to add the lead later in the frame. Kesley Stevenson getting the bucket and the foul. She would make the free throw. And then later in the run, she would knock down this 3 to cap a 19-2 run for the Trailblazers to build a 9-point lead. You thought the Trailblazers would cruise to victory, but no, Academy of Art would make a final push and get back into this thing, trailing by 4 with under a minute to go. Urban Knights with possession to try to make it a 1-possession game. You see it on your screen. They're waving everybody out of the lane. They find their post player for a layup. Is no good. Rebound, and the putback is good, but for a minute you thought that it would be, as you see another look at it, called on the ground. It was not. The referee grants them continuation. The 3-point play is good as she would make the free throw. So Dixie State up by just 1 with 33 ticks remaining on the clock. In the ensuing inbounds play, Dixie State, a miracle play as Allie Frank's able to tip the ball ahead to Kristen Baldwin. She's wide open, makes the layup. Kesley Stevenson would later add a free throw for a 4-point cushion. Academy of Art misses the 3-point shot at the buzzer, and the Trailblazers claim the 77-73 victory. Crazy game, crazy finish, but Dixie State able to get the victory. Mariah Martin, a team-high 21 points in that one to lead 4 Trailblazers in double figures as Kristen Baldwin, Allie Franks, and Termina Jordan all finished in double figures as well. The women's basketball team now 5-3, already matching its win total from last season. Now, should note that for her performance last week, Mariah Martin was named Pac West Freshman of the Week on Monday. Martin logged a career week in helping Dixie State split its 2 games, averaging 19.5 points, 5 assists, 3.5 rebounds, and 2 steals per game. She also converted 12 of 13 free throw attempts during the week while shooting 57% from the field and 71% from 3-point range. She opened the week with 18 points and 5 assists in a close loss at Division I Utah Valley on Tuesday, then followed up the feat with a career day on Saturday, leading Dixie State to that victory that we just looked at with her career high 21 points. She also had 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and converted 10 of 11 from the free throw line in that game to help the Trailblazers to their first win over the Urban Knights since 2013. So the honor marks the 2nd consecutive Freshman of the Week award for Dixie State. Taylor Moyaki garnered the honor last week. Congratulations to both of them. We didn't have a show last week for Trailblazer Weekly, so congratulations to both Mariah Martin and Taylor Moyaki for their honors as Freshman of the Week. We move to women's swimming now as the Trailblazers headed to Grand Junction, Colorado last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to compete in the Colorado Mesa A3 Performance Invitational. Trailblazers finished in 3rd place overall in the team standings with 568 points behind the host Colorado Mesa and runner-up Colorado School of Mines in the 8-team meet. Dixie State also collected 2 event wins while 12 school records were set and 63 top 10 all-time marks were established over the 3 days of competition. 5 school records fell on the opening day on Thursday, including marks set by Miriam Gonzalez, Anna Ward, and multiple marks set in the medley events. 5 more records fell on Friday on day 2, including times posted by Hannah Hansen, Megan Ruppenthal, Katie Pack, and Micah Ellis. Hannah Bodkin and Katie Pack each set school records on Saturday to wrap up the weekend. Certainly was a banner weekend for the women's swimming team, and we look forward to seeing what they can accomplish through the rest of the season. Trailblazers will return to action in a home meet, the Washington City Community Center versus Arizona Christian, on Friday and Saturday, January 5th and 6th. So stay tuned for those women's swimming event next month is when they're back in action. Back to the basketball court, as the men's basketball team also hosted Academy of Art on Saturday in its first conference game of the season. Contest also marked the first home game for Dixie State after opening the season with 7 consecutive games on the road. Dixie State built a 15-point lead at halftime and led by as many as 18 points in the second half, but Academy of Art would not go down easy. Urbanites trimmed the lead to single digits late in the second frame before the Trailblazers finished them off and held on for 74-62 victory. Trevor Hill finished with a game-high 23 points to lead 3 DSU players in double figures. Zach Hunter with 11 points and Austin Montgomery chipping in 10 points off of the bench were the other 2 players in double figures. You see on your screen 74-62 win for the Trailblazers. We've got some highlights from that show, or from that game, so let's roll the tape, take a look at those. Trevor Hill started the game off good for Dixie State, splashing home a 3 straight away. Doesn't shoot those often, but he'll make them if you leave him open. Dub Price, right elbow jumper in the first half. A lot of these highlights coming from the first half. Austin Montgomery was a monster in that first frame. 10 points, all of them scored in the first half. Zach Hunter, you see, the first of 2 traditional 3-point opportunities, the bucket and the foul. Tarek Cool, the redshirt freshman, splashing home a 3 from the right side in the first frame. But Trevor Hill really powered Dixie State offensively. You see him get the scoop and the score there. How about Zach Frampton hustling to keep that play alive, and then one more pass from Trevor Hill. So good, we're going to look at it twice. Frampton tosses to Hill, who then finds Austin Montgomery for the 2-hand flush in traffic. Not too much longer, Trevor Hill the steal and the score, throwing it down with one hand on the other end. Those 2 plays were our plays of the game. Dub Price knocking down a 3 in the second half. Again, Trailblazers win this game 74-62. Wade Miller would get into the 3-point action in the second frame, knocking one down from the left angle. And then how about Zach Hunter, his second of the 2 3-point opportunities. And Trevor Hill getting to the bucket in traffic. So good, we're going to look at that one twice as well. That would give Dixie State a 13-point lead at the time. The Trailblazers would finish it off 74-62. Trailblazers are now 4-4 overall, back to 500, and 1-0 in Pac West play. With that, it's time for our first break. When we come back, we'll sit down with men's basketball assistant coach Jeremiah Barnes, who is no stranger to Dixie State. Don't go anywhere. There's more Trailblazer Weekly right after this timeout.
Everything starts out small. The things that hurt us, they all start from somewhere. The words we say, the things we do, they can grow into something else. What was small and innocent can become big and sometimes scary. All it takes is one comment, one picture, one video for something to catch fire. But a big problem doesn't need a big response. Not at first. Even if we don't know what to say, the eye emoji can be that first step we take. Let's all pledge to take that first small step together and change the world in a big way. I'm a witness, and so are you.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it,
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got, or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to savethefood.com.
Welcome back inside this week's edition of Trailblazer Weekly. It's not often a player gets to return to his or her alma mater and to coach, but that's exactly what's going on with the men's basketball program, as both assistant coaches right now are former players. And assistant coach Jeremiah Barnes rejoined the program earlier this year, and he joins us today on the show to discuss his journey back to the Burns Arena, among other things. Thanks for being here with us. And I'm a couple months late, and certainly not the first to say it, but welcome back to Dixie State. It's certainly a pleasure to have you back on the sidelines inside the Burns.
Thanks. Great to be back.
Let's talk just right off the bat about that journey back to Dixie State. You played here 2009 to 2011, graduated from Dixie State, then went and coached with your brother at Academy of Art, and then an opportunity opened up back here at Dixie State. Take us through that. I know there was a couple of years ago, and even an opportunity where maybe you were going to come back, but didn't quite work out, but now you're here starting this year. Take us through the process and how you ended up back here at the Burns.
Yeah, so it was after I graduated, Coach kind of mentioned to me that I should probably get into coaching, and I thought it was a terrible idea. So he asked me to try it out for a day, see if I liked it. So I went to Dixie High School, fell in love with it right away. And then I was going to be back on staff that first year, just kind of as a volunteer. And my brother got the head coaching job at Academy of Art. So originally he told me he did not want me to be on staff in March. And then in August he called me when I was going to commit to being here as a volunteer assistant. He called me and asked me to come. So I spent there for 5 years. 2 years ago, Coach called me with an opportunity to come back. Just timing was a little off, but when he called me this time, I couldn't say no. So it's good to be back.
So you're one of the few out there that have both played for and now coached with John Judkins, the man with the plan. What's the biggest difference between playing for him and coaching alongside him?
I don't think that. I think the only difference is I don't have to run being on staff. No, I think I've always wanted to coach with Coach. I thought he has a great basketball mind, and he's taught me a lot, just in terms of holding myself accountable and pushing through and being mentally tough. So I was really interested to see what is different. I think his preparation is a lot more in depth than I thought as a player. You know, the things that he thinks of in his in-game situations. He's just he's a lot smarter than I originally thought.
Talk about your experience with, obviously you've played for him, now coached with him. How has that helped you with this current team? Do you maybe take a guy aside and you can kind of tell him, hey, I know what Coach Judkins is thinking here. I played for him. He came down on me the same way. This is the point he's trying to drive. How much has that helped you on this team?
A lot, I think, especially coming in September, a few weeks after the school has started. I think just building a rapport and understanding, the players understanding that I was part of one of the most successful teams under Coach, and so they kind of understand that I know where they're coming from. So just letting them know, I think that's been the biggest benefit, value that I've added to the program, and along with Casey Winters, is we know what Coach is saying, we're able to translate it, and we know what he wants.
What did you learn as your time as a student athlete that's been able to help you as a coach now?
Ooh, that's a great question. Ooh, I wasn't expecting that one. I guess as a student athlete here, time management would be one of them, but just I guess investing in yourself. I think a lot of times student athletes, they kind of go to school and they go to practice, and it's just kind of a repetition. But investing in yourself, investing in other people, and trying to build your network and build your brand.
Obviously, when you get into coaching, the main goal is probably to be a head coach somewhere, sometime. But there's got to be some advantages to just having that time as an assistant. You don't have the full pressure, the full load and everything coming down on you. You feel like as an assistant you're able to maybe have a little bit more fun with it than the head coach?
Oh, definitely. It's a lot easier to make suggestions than to make decisions. So yeah, One coach once told me to be an assistant as long as you can. There's nothing wrong with that, and I want to learn from coach just as much as possible. And I think that's the biggest thing is the right opportunity will present itself. But as of right now, it's just more of is more learning.
So you spent a lot of time at Dixie State now between playing and coaching. Do you have a favorite moment at Dixie State? I was pouring through some old bios, and I was able to dig something out about you saying your favorite moment was getting your teeth knocked out in practice and then winning conference. Can we confirm that story here? We might have to hear that story.
Yeah, so what happened was we were preparing to play Grand Canyon at home my junior year, and coach was trying to figure out how we were going to guard a particular play. And so as they were discussing it, we had ran the play and we thought we were done. So we just started kind of shooting around, and coach was like, oh, I want to see it one more time. So we ran it one more time, and we kind of, like 4 of us fell on the floor. As I'm getting up, I thought I broke my teeth. So I'm going like this, checking my teeth. And as that's happening, as I'm getting up, one of our players who was kind of clumsy, his leg cut the back of my head and smashed it in, and I knocked out my 2 front teeth. And I was more concerned that I wasn't able to play versus Grand Canyon. But luckily we went to a dentist, got it fixed, and that was that.
I'd be willing to bet that going to the Sweet 16, winning the conference, are more favorite moments than that. But that's just, like I said, I dug that up on
at the time
on the bio.
Yeah, at the time that was it. But winning the Sweet 16 and beating BYU Hawaii for the first time at their house was probably my most memorable moments.
How much? And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I want to just elaborate a little bit more on it. How much has that helped with with this year's team and saying, look, I was on that team. We've gotten that far before. We can get there again and even further.
I think it's helped a lot. We're right now we're 4-4. If you look at a lot of Coach Judkins' teams, the teams that don't start out the best usually end up the best. And so my senior year, we started out 1-2. We dropped our first 2 home conference games, losing to 20 by BYU Hawaii. So just helping this team understand, like, hey, I've been where you're trying to go. It's a matter of when you start playing good. Like, we don't want to be playing well in the beginning of the year and not at the end. So I think that's helped because they continue to listen, because I've been, I think we were 3-4 or something like that as well.
What's something special, unique about this year's team?
I think
the other teams you've been a part of.
Their camaraderie and how much they get along and how easily they're able to drop an issue. I don't think there's not any cliques. There's not any beef between each other. They can kind of get on each other and and just kind of let it go. After practice, it's all done. There's never anybody holding a grudge. I think that's special about this team.
How has the transition been? Obviously, we're a couple months into the season now, so that transition's over. But Coach Williamson was here for a couple of years, had gotten to know the guys, and I'm not sure. How many of the guys did you know? Obviously, coaching at Academy of Art, you coached against some of these guys before. But how did that transition go, and how quickly were you able to just jump right into it and develop that camaraderie with your players?
I think it's part of it being just the tradition here at the school. So I played with Zach Robbins. And DeQuan Thompson was a freshman when I was a senior, and so they kind of passed on the tradition. And so being a part of the program, it's a brotherhood, and so that's they kind of know is hey, this is a guy who's been here before and who helped with the tradition. So it's more of a brotherhood. So they see me more as that. So it's been pretty easy, thanks to Zach Robbins and DeQuan Thompson and those guys.
Well, we certainly appreciate you stopping by today and chat with me for a minute, get to know you a little bit better. And again, let me welcome you back here to Dixie State again. We're excited to have you. It's fun, got to ride in your van on the last trip, and looking forward to those more trips throughout the season. But we're excited to have you, and it just seems like you guys are having a fun time. And back to 500. I hope we get the win this weekend and then keep things rolling. So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Another big shout out to assistant coach Jeremiah Barnes for stopping by today. We've got to take another timeout. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show with a look ahead at this week's schedule. We'll be right back after this timeout.
Everything starts out small. The things that hurt us, they all start from somewhere. The words we say, the things we do, that can grow into something else. What was small and innocent can become big and sometimes scary. All it takes is one comment, one picture, one video for something to catch fire. But a big problem doesn't need a big response. Not at first. Even if we don't know what to say, the eye emoji can be that first step we take. Let's all pledge to take that first small step together and change the world in a big way. I'm a witness, and so are you.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it,
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got, or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, babe.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to savethefood.com.
Welcome back inside the CEC TV studios in this week's edition of Trailblazer Weekly. Before we wrap up the show today, let's take a quick look ahead at this week's schedule. You can follow along on your screen. And we're to that time of year where it's just basketball, and women's swimming on a little bit of a break right now. They won't be back in action until next month. And so really the only thing we have to show you and to talk about is the basketball doubleheader this Saturday. It's your last chance before the end of the month to see both the men's and women's basketball teams. So get out to the Burns Arena on Saturday. They will host Azusa Pacific, nationally ranked on the women's side. It'll be a very tough test for our women's basketball team at 5-3. Kind of a good measuring stick to see where exactly they are at this point. And then the men's game, always competitive between Dixie State and Azusa Pacific. Those are afternoon games once again. So the women's game will tip off at 1:30 p.m. inside the Burns Arena. The men's game scheduled for a 3:30 p.m. tip. Of course, that is all dependent upon how long the women's game goes. So there'll be a minimum of 25 minutes between those two games. The women's game goes quick. We can get that second game started by 3:30, but it is scheduled, the men's game, for that 3:30 p.m. start. So plan to spend a few hours with us in the Burns Arena on Saturday afternoon. Great product from both teams on the floor this season. It will not be time wasted. I can guarantee you that. We'll have both of those games for you right here on CEC TV, as well as on the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page. The women's game will be on Radio Dixie 91.3 FM, and the men's game on ESPN Radio 97.7 FM. That'll do it for today's show. We want to remind you that you can catch this episode and all other episodes of Trailblazer Weekly on demand at the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page. Specifically, that is youtube.com/Dixie State Athletics. And there you can watch this show, all episodes of the show, anytime, anywhere. For myself, Carrick Sagmiller, and the entire CEC TV crew, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Trailblazer Weekly.